Dybantsa is off to a hot start in his college career for the BYU Cougars, averaging over 20 points per game, nearly 7 rebounds a night to go along with 2 assists, and a positive assist-to-turnover ratio. The 5-star number 1 recruit in the nation, according to many sites, has been an awesome piece to begin the year for Kevin Young, and the NBA style that the BYU Cougars play has been a very positive impact on Dybantsa's play early in the year as well, where he's shooting over 61% on 2-pointers, 40% on threes, albeit low volume, and 65% from the line, where he's getting to the free throw line quite a bit as well. We'll look at his free throw rate. We're going to break down all of the advanced numbers, dive into film in today's video as well, so I hope you guys do enjoy. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content as well if you are enjoying. And let's take a look at those advanced numbers here now, where his free throw rate is extremely gaudy, over 42% free throw rate, which does tend to bolster that true shooting percentage, where you see right now he's about 62.4% true shooting, even with him not making his free throws at a great clip, which I do hope will grow and blossom and develop throughout his career moving forward. And again, we're on a 4-game sample size right now, so I'm not going to worry too much about free throw percentage at this point of the year. Now, one thing that is a little concerning, but definitely worth noting, is that 18.5% three-point attempt rate. It's kind of a twofold discussion, right? For someone like Dybantsa, who we are projecting to be a star going into the NBA, someone who's going to be an integral, central piece of an NBA offense, you don't necessarily need your star player to be an extremely high three-point volume player. It definitely helps, but I think if you are looking at building a team around Dybantsa, he doesn't need to shoot 10 three-pointers a game to be an elite offensive player in the league. But obviously, we would love to see that three-point attempt rate go up because it just helps you win the math game. That's been a huge piece of the equation for teams like the Warriors and Celtics, when their best players like Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Steph Curry are willing to shoot a ton of three-pointers and make them at a good clip. It definitely does help. So Dybantsa is making them right now, but he's not shooting a ton of them to begin the year for BYU. We'll have to track that number throughout the season, see how it develops and grows, and maybe it stays around this level, maybe it increases, maybe it even decreases a little bit. Doesn't mean the film is bad, though. There's a lot to love, which we'll get into here in a second. He does have a 10.2 BPM at this point, very early in the year, but he's been a huge positive impact player on winning. The box plus minus loves him. And so do some of the advanced team numbers when he's on the floor. The BYU Cougars have a 126.4 offensive rating and a 100.9 team defensive rating with him on the floor, which is a significant plus, about plus 25.5 net rating on the year so far for Dybantsa. Again, very early, not even looking at Big 12 play yet, obviously, but he's been an awesome impact player for them. And on a per 100 possession basis, he is scoring about 40 points per 100 possessions. So the volume is there as a scorer, which has me very excited. Shout out to College Basketball Analytics. You're going to see a bunch of graphs and numbers and data from them. I have a promo code with them, code UTILITY. If you use it at cbbanalytics.com, which that link will be in the description, you can get $30 off any of their packages. So if you want just 1 month of data, which I definitely recommend doing, you can get $30 off on that package, which is awesome because their data, I'm telling you right now, is better than any other data you can find covering some of these college draft prospects. So let's look at that shot chart here from collegebasketballanalytics.com. And Dybantsa, the biggest things I think to highlight in here are not only his efficiency at and around the rim. Look at his paint volume here and his efficiency on it, shooting 69% at the rim, shooting 70% in the paint, non-rim field goal attempts. And then look at the volume. 48.1% of his shots have come directly at the rim, and 18.5% have come in that painted area on non-rim field goal attempts. So a ton of volume. We're looking at about 2/3 of his overall shots this year have come at the rim or in the painted area, which is incredible. And I continue to see comparisons to a guy like RJ Barrett pre-draft, which I just don't understand. RJ Barrett shot about 45% of his shots within the painted area. Dybantsa is another 22% ahead of that, which when we dive into the film, I'm going to explain why that's the case. And now, obviously, you're looking at the volume. We've shot just 10 three-pointers through 4 games, so he's averaging 2.5 3-point attempts per game. So the attempt rate is not very high, obviously in that 18% threshold, including one corner 3-point attempt, which obviously we're not expecting him to shoot a ton of corner threes because he is a star player. Offensively, teams are going to funnel those guys off the slots, playing them downhill, trying to get into the paint. So we're not going to see a ton of corner volume from him this year, probably not a ton of it ever in his NBA career either, but I do think that's an interesting area of the game for him to develop and grow into. So let's dive into that actual film now and break down what AJ Dybantsa is capable of as an offensive player. I want to focus first of all on the painted area, and I talked about the difference between him and RJ Barrett because that is, again, the mainstream comparison going on right now, which again just doesn't actually make any sense. And the reason for that is AJ Dybantsa's ability to gather the basketball, finish in traffic. Here he gets a really nice strong bump against Villanova in his first career official college game and banks in one, then maybe stares him down a little bit on the baseline too. Here he's coming off of a high ball screen, and BYU is loading this strong side corner up, which should give, in theory, AJ Dybantsa a decent rim run opportunity with an empty side, weak side, which puts the roll man into advantage. And Kevin Young, one of the big benefits here for BYU is you have NBA coaching experience. The staff has worked throughout the NBA for a long time, and you can tell a real modern approach to the offense. It helped Yegor Demin a lot last draft cycle, and it's helping AJ Dybantsa early on here because he's able to get to a nice spin pivot here, plays very patiently, and then you're seeing the footwork. These are the things that RJ Barrett just simply didn't have. RJ Barrett was not quite the finisher from a touch perspective that AJ Dybantsa is, in my opinion. And then also you're looking at the footwork, the counters, the ability to go right or left. I think all of that stands out in a big way. There's a really nice pass from Dybantsa, but looking at his rim presence in general, his ability to keep his dribble alive, I thought he did a very good job here maintaining his driving line, being able to work toward the baseline and keeping his handle alive so that way he can mitigate the help, goes to a reverse layup. Very nice again with the left hand. I think the ambidexterity of his finishing has been a real promising sign early on too here for BYU, where he's able to work left, he's able to work right, and it makes it very difficult to actually contain him one way or another. Working off another high ball screen here, Villanova's in drop coverage with their big man retreating. Again, you can tell BYU's spacing context is very good. We're getting a kind of replace lift here, and then you're stretching out this help side defender. Instead of going to the corner, you're lengthening and elongating that closeout a little bit up to the wing. So they're able to open up the dunker spot a little bit. Because of that, now you can see BYU's spacing is pretty good here at the end of it, and Dybantsa makes the dump off down into the dunker spot. Very nice read out of the pick and roll, and it all starts by his ability to utilize screens, get downhill, and then be a threat as a finisher, because if you don't meet him, he's able to go up and finish. Nice job going into contact, playing physically there. And that's one thing about Dybantsa that really stands out to me is he's willing to work into contact, willing to work into traffic. Not only does he have the handle to get him there, but he's got the footwork and the functional strength and athletic tools to actually achieve in those opportunities as well. Another great one where he goes straight into the chest of the shot blocker, bumps him backward, and is able to get to the rim. Another strong drive there. This time, I'm going to back this one up even because I do think it's an important one. Kind of getting a flat ball screen here, ultimately no screen set, but Dybantsa is able to turn the corner here, and he's able to hold his driving line. So the Villanova defender is going to try and cut him off and try and push him out toward the sideline a little bit, try and ride him off of his driving line. But this is where Dybantsa, who at 6'8", 6'9", his strength with his handle is very impressive because even with a hand to the back, he's able to get where he wants to go, which is toward the rim, toward the backboard, so he's able to use it. This is one of his best reps early in the season as well, working, again, another high ball screen. He puts his defender in jail, and this is, a very typical NBA thing you'll see from some of the best guards, Trae Young, Luka Doncic. The fact that AJ Dybantsa is not only having very strong coaching helping him along in these areas, but then given the opportunities in games to actually execute, do this. And then we get a great Gortat screen here where after setting that original screen, he's going to come in and seal his big man, which opens up this lefty drive for Dybantsa to get all the way to the rim. Very good stuff. This is great coaching, by the way, from BYU, which is able to open up that ultimate drive for Dybantsa, who gets that one to go. Here he is now against Holy Cross, working downhill. He turns the corner off of a handoff. Again, you're seeing the functional play strength, the ability to drive into traffic, and a very nice bump and one play. I'm going to let this one play out again in full speed. I just want you to watch his driving line be held, play through physicality, get his feet underneath of him. He's able to play off of 2 feet when he needs to, but he's also got the strength and explosion to finish off that. Here, the Holy Cross defender tries to ice this ball screen high. And again, this is where BYU's spacing context is really important. We're working empty side ball screen. And against the ice, Dybantsa is able to take this and go. And he turns the corner extremely well after a nice crossover, showcasing off the handle a little bit. And then what it does is it puts Holy Cross into scramble, where low man has to step over. Now number 4 here is defending 2 guys, number 25 and the corner shooter. This is really good spacing, again, from BYU, and they have the horses to make actual plays off of this because Dybantsa is an absolute physical specimen. Nice two-handed jam at the rim there. Here, Dybantsa working the traffic, shows off some of the footwork with a pivot on the gather and a nice finish finger roll at the rim. The details are awesome. His footwork, his patience, his balance, his coordination, all of that stuff is really next level, which is partially why he's, first of all, so different than RJ Barrett, but then secondly, why he's such a special prospect in general. And in this loaded draft class with 3 guys at the very top who in a lot of other years would be very likely in consideration for the first overall pick, he might be the 3rd pick in this draft, which is just insane. Another high ball screen here against a zone against Delaware. Delaware ran a ton of zone, which I actually thought was really useful from an evaluation standpoint watching AJ Dybantsa, because you're able to see how he works against gap help, how he works against guys kind of filling driving lines. This ball screen was very nice here because with a overload on this side of the floor, it kind of stretches Delaware where, hey, if we want to provide help on this drive, there's open kicking opportunities. Dybantsa chooses to go into the chest of the shot blocker. And again, you're seeing the actual play strength. If we go back just a little bit on this clip, this is one where I do think talking about the detail and nuance is really good. Look at where he meets the shot blocker outside of the restricted area, right? Watch where the shot blocker gets bounced or pushed back to on the finish. He is now completely under the rim. So first of all, Dybantsa is playing strong. This is a really great take. This is like textbook finishing stuff for a wing. But then secondly, if he did miss the shot, which he didn't, but if he did, he's in position for a putback, which I do think is important as well. Here's a Spain action for BYU against Holy Cross. Back screen here on the big with the big man rolling in. Forces a tag help here from the weak side. Again, the spacing context and the offensive design is really good for BYU. Dybantsa gets to go downhill. Nice two-hand jam, as well as the Holy Cross defenders are a little hesitant to actually get in front of him. Here he is now working against Delaware again, and I talked about their zone and how that kind of creates some of these gaps. There's assignments here for some of these defenders. So if Dybantsa, for example, were to drive left here, he's going to get met probably with an extra body in the zone, which is why I think this was a really useful game to actually evaluate for him. Now he does fake the pass and ultimately try and drive the zone, and he draws a foul. And I think this is one of his areas where he's going to be super special in the NBA. We talked about his free throw rate, his ability to get to the free throw line a ton. He's going to draw a very good deal of fouls because of his decisiveness, his handle, his ability to play into contact. This one, he gives a little chicken wing, but he just meets the defender when he's out of legal guarding position, which is going to be a key phrase throughout Dybantsa's NBA career. It's going to be difficult to beat him to the spot while simultaneously being in legal defending position, which is going to create opportunities for him. Another one here comes off this handoff, wins with a little slight hesitation, and draws a foul on the floor there again because number 55, once again, is not in legal guarding position when that contact is initiated. And because Dybantsa is such a downhill force where he wants to direct himself toward the rim area, he doesn't veer off to the sideline. He holds his driving lines really well and shoots into these gaps. He's going to get a lot of whistles because he's so strong. But he doesn't look like a LeBron James, right? He doesn't have that big physical frame where sometimes the whistle doesn't get blown for him. He has kind of that herky-jerky, elongated frame a little bit, and I do think that's going to help him get extra calls as well as he embellishes contact. Here he attacks the closeout flat-footed, does a nice job kind of selling and embellishing that contact there in that one when he gets 2 hands to the back. So he's kind of got a pro's game already with his ability to attack into gaps, drive the basketball, and then embellish contact. Here's a really nice low gather, which gets a whistle, and you can tell the Delaware players were not happy at all with the whistles in this game, but a lot of them were fouls, and it was Dybantsa being aggressive, asserting his driving lines, and doing a good job getting himself into situations where he would draw fouls. Here he's working in transition against Delaware, showcasing the handle into a Euro step, draws a foul there as well. So not only is it just embellishing contact, it's not just, hey, he's flopping on plays. He's putting himself in advantage and putting defenders out of position. Really great behind the back crossover here that gets him going downhill with a second man rolling to the rim with him in early transition here. And then not only that, but he's able to go right, left, Euro step, draw the contact there. Again, contact is made with the defender, not with his back to the basket, not in legal guarding position. And even though he misses the layup, probably wishes he would have made it. It's a very nice drive and a really promising play for him there. Makes both of his free throws as well on that attempt. Here he is now working against Holy Cross, kind of in a matchup zone a little bit here. 33 was setting a ball screen or an off-ball screen for him. And then he's going to catch and then slice into these gaps. And this is what I really want to hone in on in this video. Kind of reminding me a little bit of what we've seen from VJ Edgecombe early in Edgecombe's NBA career, but Dybantsa's bigger. I think his handle's better. He's more electric downhill. I think he's got better finishing tools as kind of a footwork perspective. He's just really darn good. Look at him able to absorb contact, rise up. Now, a little bit of a slight fade toward the sideline. I think a key progression point for him will be being a little bit more vertical on his rise ups off the move. But he's still able to get that one to go because he is such a talented shot maker as well. A little bit of a chin action sort of design here for BYU against Holy Cross. Now, there's no actual chin screen set here, but you do get to see Dybantsa's overall physical tools. Cuts, beautiful finish as well at the rim. Now here he is in transition, getting a catch and shoot opportunity. Notice BYU got down big time early in this game against Delaware. There's a few things I wanted to talk about on this catch and shoot opportunity. First of all, I love his verticality. He gets up very high on his jump shot, which is going to make him very challenging to contest. He gets a very good high release point, and then also with the way that whistles are blown in the NBA right now on flagrant fouls and undercutting shooters, the higher he gets, the more likely someone's going to land underneath of him, which is going to give him probably extra free throw attempts as well. Now, it doesn't happen on this clip, but I also think the follow-through is pretty good. The one thing I'm a little concerned about here on his base as he lands, he is now pointing away from the hoop with his frame. Notice his frame is pointing this way, which at the end of the day, like, I think mechanics are an overblown discussion. We've seen some really great shooters throughout NBA history that don't have picture-perfect form or mechanics. So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, Dybantsa can't be a good shooter with this. I do want it to get cleaned up and have his momentum carry him a little bit more toward the rim and have him finish toward the rim. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh my gosh, he can't be a great shooter with that. He's shooting 40% from three early in the year. Again, super small volume. He's 4 of 10. But I think the form here, and this one I thought was a little bit of a better rep as well. If you look at where his shoulders are pointing here on this one, he's still opening up a little bit to the sideline, but at least this one's a little bit, probably more toward the corner than anything. So I thought his form, I think his mechanics are really good. I showed a couple misses here even because I do think the motion's repeatable, very reliable. Here he is in transition again. I do think his follow-through needs a little bit of work as well. If you look at where his follow-through's pointing, he is kind of fading off to the side a little bit on his release with just his handwork. That's going to be something that is very easy to clean up. So I'm very trustworthy that it's very trustable that an NBA team is going to solve some of these really small, minute issues that I'm seeing. And at the end of the day, again, I don't think these minute issues are really that problematic either. So I don't want to come across like I'm being super negative. First of all, I think they're easy to clean up. And secondly, even if they don't get cleaned up perfectly, I don't think they're going to be the end of the world for his NBA career development. Let's jump into his ability to attack gaps. I talked about his willingness to drive the basketball, play physically, hold driving lines, and then take what the defense is giving him. I think here against Delaware, again, where you're seeing these zones, BYU is doing a nice job overloading this, which now puts this man in no man's land because now with the overloaded side of the court, this guy needs to rotate over. And what he's waiting for here is a bump from this other top zone defender. And Dybantsa knows that in this setup here, as the bump comes over, he slices into this driving line. And you can tell this Delaware defender was trying to take away the corner because he is responsible for that corner on the catch. And the bump's a little bit late. And Dybantsa, without missing a beat, takes that space, gets downhill. Now doesn't actually get the finish to go, but he sets himself up to possibly get a whistle, doesn't get one there, but then secures the rebound anyway after going into the shot blocker's chest once again. He's very, very good at that. Here he's working ball screen against the zone. And again, you're seeing that gap help coming now. And that's one of the beautiful things about watching a game like this. This is what NBA defense is going to look like. On these slot drives, on these top of the key drives, he's going to get met with extra bodies. look at all of the attention he's drawing here with these 3 Delaware defenders, and what that does is it puts BYU into advantage. And you can tell, again, the NBA coaching staff philosophy here. Now he's able to slice through this gap, but he does a nice job getting to the rim, following his own miss, once again winning with that physicality, that traffic. You're going to see clips here where he takes advantage of gaps by passing. He's going to take advantage of gaps by slicing through them. And it's what makes him so dynamic. Really nice lefty finish there with a Euro step and one. Now here he is playing off of the ball, very similar to the clip we just showed with him winning off the dribble here. Instead, this time his teammate picks up his dribble as the gap help comes. And Dybantsa, as you can guess, is going to slice into this gap and take advantage of what Delaware is giving him in this defense. An immediate catch, rip, and go. There's no hesitation. He knows what he has in front of him. And I think this level of aggression is going to be super translatable to the NBA. I've been super encouraged. Now, this is a great block by Delaware. The big man completely swallows up and suffocates that shot. But you can trust the process here for Dybantsa because of his ability to work downhill, create traffic. Now, off of this, Delaware's kind of learning, right? They've been getting beat into this slice gap here a ton. So the Delaware defender overplays it, and he's got gap help here on this side. So they're trying to shut off this lane right now. And Dybantsa gives him a quick jab and go so that he can rip back middle. And if you know anything about zone defenses, you don't want to give up the middle of the floor. That's exactly what happens here. So as we back it up, I'm going to show you off the catch here. There's the jab. He rips and goes. Really nice footwork again. Doesn't pick up his handle prematurely. Is able to get to a strong jump stop, and then is able to Euro finish out of it as well with an extra stride step. So, or not stride step, but a step through. So really good stuff here from Dybantsa. Nice pickup here into a gather Euro. The footwork, he got called for a travel there. Probably was a travel, but in the NBA, you're not going to get whistled for those as frequently. So if you're looking at his turnovers maybe being suppressed even a little bit further going forward in the NBA, that will be a helpful area for him. Now I think here playing off the catch, he's able to work the baseline, keeps his handle alive, and then the footwork to reverse pivot. This is just really small detail, but he, instead of picking up his dribble here, which is what a lot of freshman wings would do, the fact that he's able to probe, get a little bit further into the action, and then the understanding of, hey, if I just drop step here essentially back toward the middle of the floor, I've got a layup. And he finishes above the rim, at the rim, and he does it super consistently, which I love. Here he's starting a ball reversal, catches again off of it, and rises up into a catch and shoot three-pointer where he's taken those gaps, playing off the catch extremely well. Here he is running in transition. We get a little bit of showtime from him, get to show off some of those athletic tools that he has. He is just a phenomenal vertical athlete. Obviously, you guys know I'm not the biggest, hey, draft track and field players, but he's got a lot of functional basketball talent and some awesome track and field athleticism too, which makes him such an interesting prospect. Here he is now working off the wing. Again, against Delaware, you're going to get to see some of these gaps, right? We're getting an extra defender on the ball screen. So as his teammate comes off of this ball screen, it puts this Delaware defender in a difficult task to defend 2 guys, and trying to do so effectively, especially against Dybantsa, is very hard because Dybantsa has been slicing this team up this game. Here he's off the catch, and instead of settling here, which again, maybe he could have sliced, maybe he could take this catch and shoot 3. This is where his selflessness has stood out to me early in the year. He makes the extra pass to the corner. Kevin Young not only, and then he goes and cleans up the miss as well, which is just honestly awesome, and he's all fired up about it. Not only is Kevin Young's spacing contact really good for helping Dybantsa drive the ball, get to the rim more frequently, but there's also just a lot of good habits that Dybantsa is going to build by playing in this kind of system at the college level. Here he flashes to the middle against the zone and then just reads where the relocation happens for an easy kick out 3. I've actually been really encouraged by Dybantsa's passing. I was one of the big questions for me coming into his college career. I was wondering, especially relative to Boozer and Peterson, who are such tremendous passers, how this would stand out to me and how he would play as a facilitator. And listen, he's not going to be this 8 assists per game player in the NBA probably, but he is going to be able to make the next pass and selflessly beat team defenses who are showing extra attention to him. This clip specifically, I think, points to some of the growth areas. Now, Delaware ultimately does take away that slice drive, and they are able to shut off the corner, and then Dybantsa just fires kind of a lazy one-handed pass across the top of the key, which becomes a turnover. But again, with every little area where he needs to improve, there still have been positive flashes of really great stuff. Here he starts the ball reversal by kind of engaging the gap defender and then swinging it. Really nice stuff there. Here he is again playing off of that catch. gets to a spot here where he's been threatening this slice drive all game, which we've told you about. And again, look at the pressure that puts on this corner zone defender for the Blue Hens. It's just very difficult assignment, very nice timely pass. Now, ultimately, does make a nice recovery, doesn't get an assist here. And that's why assists aren't really a full picture storyteller on who's making good passes and who isn't at the college level, because there's a lot of good passes that Dybantsa's thrown in these clips that haven't turned into assists. Here is the go-to baseline out of bounds play for BYU, where Dybantsa flies out over here to the corner, and then they get a similar action from the opposite corner up to the wing. It starts an early ball reversal, which is really nice. And a lot of times if they get this hit like number 5 is able to do here, where he just brush screens just a little bit onto the defender, you get an open catch and shoot opportunity, which does turn into an assist for AJ Dybantsa. Nice stuff here. Showcases his hands a little bit, processing, playing off of 2 feet, balance, doesn't rush anything. Again, another example where there's no assist, but his balance, his ability to play off of 2 feet, it keeps him from getting into trouble consistently, which I think is a really nice value tool. Here he comes up to set the small-to-small screen, and then ultimately does kind of ghost it, and it creates an open opportunity for his teammates. So that's something where playmaking is more than just how well you pass the basketball. And I think if he continues to grow and develop as a screener and understanding, hey, how do I space off of this? How do I move? And he's got a great coaching staff, again, to help him in those areas. He can turn into a really awesome player. I think he's going to have an awesome development year this year for BYU. Here he catches in the middle of the zone. Now, I do think with the time and space that he caught this with, he probably could have just taken the mid-range jump shot. But if you remember his shot chart, he hasn't shot a ton of mid-range jump shots at this point. Instead, he tries to force this 2-on-1 high-low action against the Delaware big man. Does float up a pass that isn't corralled by his teammate, but I think, again, the process is decent there. Here he is working on the box out, goes up and rebounds the basketball, and then he pushes in transition with a nice early hit ahead. He's going to be a terrific rebounder as well. He has a 20% defensive rebound rate right now. We'll see how much that holds up throughout the course of the year. It might slip down a little bit once we get to conference play, but he's been very, very productive for BYU on the defensive end of the floor as well as a rebounder. I do think when we look at the defensive tape, which is what we're doing now, his screen navigation needs a lot of work. And sometimes this hinges on, scouting and what the coaches are telling you to do. But right here, my biggest belief is when you're facing ball screens, you want to, especially when you're a great athlete like Dybantsa, you want to erase this space and get to the body to try and fight over the screen. Because I really don't think Delaware is even using the screen very effectively. They're not going to brush shoulder to shoulder. They didn't set Dybantsa up to get hit. But Dybantsa and BYU elect to go under this screen. And I think the screen navigation is one of the biggest areas that needs a lot of work right now, because even though he does a decent job getting back and contesting, you are just giving up open three-point opportunities, and Delaware is able to get that one to go. Here he is again working ball screen. This time he does try to fight over it, but if we back it up just a little bit, I want you to watch his footwork prior to the screen. Okay, he's pressuring the basketball. Screen's coming. He needs to, again, erase this space so that he can get a little bit skinnier over the top of this and get hit less, especially in an empty side ball screen, which is what Delaware is working in here. This puts a lot of pressure on BYU's big to contain the basketball, and also the help side to rotate over to the roll man. And ultimately, they do an okay job of it. And Dybantsa's got really great physical tools, but he doesn't really utilize them here. And ultimately, Delaware is able to catch in the pocket and finish. Dybantsa just chases, never gets back into the picture. It was a complete net negative on that play. Another ball screen here. What am I going to say? Look at the space. I want him to get up and get over this screen. That's what I think, especially with his length. And BYU's challenged him. They've had him guarding the ball. They've had him picking up full court. I do like that, but the technique has to just be better. Kind of dies on this screen again. Fails to get skinny, doesn't fight over it very well. And again, you're looking at a situation with this roll and replace where this Delaware offensive player shoots up, which opens up this roll man quite a bit. You're putting just, again, so much pressure on your big to be able to get a stop here. Now, Delaware settles here for a floater, which isn't the greatest shot. But again, Dybantsa is not even back in the picture yet, gives up the offensive rebound, because if you are going to get hit on the screen here, you at the very minimum, especially once this shot goes up, he needs to be trying to beat the big inside to get a body on him and clear him out of the paint. And that's very hard to do. I'm not saying it's easy, but that's what his job's supposed to be there in that exact situation. He doesn't do it. Delaware gets a putback layup. Here we are back earlier in the game. This is where I've loved. He's been effortful defensively. He's putting pressure on the basketball. That's what BYU's asked him to do a lot early in the year. And look at this. He does a much better job on this drive, ultimately gets to his body, is able to wall him up, and then cut him back off. Now, the footwork, the balance, there's still areas for him to improve defensively, but you're starting to see some of the glimmers of, wow, this guy could be awesome on the defensive end of the floor because he's such a great athlete, he's very long, and he has the want-to motor to be impactful on that end of the floor. Really nice stuff there. Switches. The pattern recognition I do think is pretty solid for him as well. But then the screen navigation just needs to get better. Here he gets screened off ball, it puts him out of position early on the play, and then it turns into a flip screen. And again, look at all of this space here between the ball handler and the screener, and somehow Dybantsa still just completely dies on this screen, which is just honestly not acceptable for someone who's going to be a top 3 pick in the 2026 NBA draft class. As a wing, your screen nav needs to be better. Now, he does get a contest and force a miss, but that's not going to look the same against the Golden State Warriors as it does against the Delaware Blue Hens. So that's a big thing for me. He does get caught ball watching a little bit. Now, he is a true freshman, super young player. This is not going to be a super negative thing because there's still awesome flashes of him doing great stuff defensively as well, making some big blocks, rotating around the floor, making his impact felt. This was a great one where he switches out, contains the ball extremely well. So I don't want this to come across as a super pessimistic area for AJ Dybantsa. Really what I mean throughout this defensive segment is he is, I think, a ways away from fulfilling his technique areas that he can grow into, but he's got so much potential to be an awesome defender because he wants to be one. And he's got the physical tools to really shine on that end of the floor. I thought this was a great example here. They blitzed the basketball. Dybantsa was trying to read his eyes, try and make a blitz play over the top to get a steal and run out. With 21 seconds left in the half, they throw it over the top. Dybantsa is able to close the gap back down. It ultimately leads to a block shot for the BYU big man. Really nice stuff there. Here, Dybantsa is working, again, over a flare screen. This is where you see some of those promising signs of potential, right? Does fight over this screen effectively and then completely shuts off the over-the-top pass. There's a lot to be really in love with. Nice job here pressuring the basketball as well. Now he does get beat on this play. And this is where he's got to make some more effort. Once he gets beat here, his whole job needs to be getting back into the picture, and especially with this positioning, he's got to try and seal the big under the rim. It's very hard to do. Again, I'm not saying it's easy, but that is probably the expectation that BYU should have for him in those kind of plays where he does get beat on screen action. All in all, I've been very impressed with Dybantsa. We're going to take a look here again at college basketball analytics graph that they provide. Again, make sure to use code UTILITY. The promo code will get you $30 off on any 1, 3, 6, or 12-month package. But the numbers here have been great for Dybantsa. He's been a super high-volume scorer, very productive on a true shooting percentage, very good at the rim, very good on twos in general, very effective on threes when he's taken them, although, again, on very small three-point attempt rate, which is just in the 25th percentile right now in college basketball. And then the passing numbers aren't bad, right? The assist-to-turnover ratio is not absolutely horrible. It's okay. And again, I think the process has been better than the actual assist numbers say. Usage rate's been very high, which is what we could have expected coming into the year for him playing for Kevin Young. The free throw rate's really good, and I think as the year progresses, his free throw rate will probably hover around this number, and others around the nation will probably decrease a bit depending on conference and outlier games early in the year. So I do think all in all, like, there's a lot to be really excited about. One of those things being this defensive rebound rate where he's in the 87th percentile right now. He has the want to, he has the motor, he has the physical tools and the skills to be an awesome NBA player. He's definitely going to be a top 3 pick in the 2026 NBA draft. Now the question is, do I have him above either of Cam Boozer or Darren Peterson? At this point, I do not. I think that the NBA tends to play better into the hands of bigs and guards. It's just a bigs and guards league in my opinion, but awesome wings still have huge impact, and I think AJ Dybantsa could be a very special one as well. So I'm really excited to see how his career grows, how the rest of the season plays out for BYU, but the early signs are very, very good for the Cougar forward. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you did enjoy. Leave a like and subscribe if you did, and we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.